Hey, what's up? It's Bobi, aka Paginator, and I'm way too close to the camera again. In this video today, we're going to talk about some 2022 reading stats and take a look at my reading journal setup for 2023. So, I keep a reading journal and usually I run out of space, so I end up having two for each year. These are my two for 2022. I could technically continue 2023 in this one, but that would mess with my fussy mind, so no. So I'm going to show you a few things that I do in my reading journals. If you look up on YouTube or elsewhere for reading journal ideas, there's tons out there. Since I'm such a junk journaling fanatic recently, you might think, oh, she's done a junk journal. Nope, bullet journal. That's what works for me, so we have lots of different kinds of journaling going on. So I started the year in this orange one, and I set up this bookshelf page for my 2022 Goodreads goal, which was 175 books. And every book that I finished, I colored in, and I went in rainbow order, as you can see here. I did achieve 175. In fact, I read a total of 192 books. I'm going to keep the same Goodreads goal for this year, though, just because I don't want to, totally freak myself out. Here I did a spread for the school reading challenge that we do with our students, and I completed all of the requirements. I did not complete as many as the bonus reads as I thought I would have, but you know, it is what it is. Here was a series I'd like to complete challenge. The black boxes are ones that I read. So you can see I kind of failed at this one, and there is not a spread like this in my journal for this year. Oh, goodness. I do have a very simple tracker for my YouTube channel. I just, at the end of every month, write down how many subscribers I have. So I started 2022 with 370 at the end of January. And then at the end of December, I had 454. Yes, I'm a small channel. I kind of like it that way. Sorry about that, my battery died. I was just getting into where my monthly pages start. So I'll show you 1 month's kind of spread just to show you what I do here, and I'll do a more close-up look when we get to the journal for this year. But I usually start with a little calendar and sometimes a quote depending on this, the theme of the month. I was doing Harry Potter stickers. Shocking, I know. We have a page for my monthly TBR and then any books that I hauled during that month. Some months are much bigger than others. At the end of the month, I fill out monthly stats with the amount of books and pages I read. And I list all the books that I've read. And then I choose a favorite for that month. So for example, January of 2022 was The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. I adore that book. And the rest of the journal just continues. This one goes through August. And then we picked up in this gray book, continuing from September through till the end of December. And then I had some end of the year stuff, and these pages aren't pretty. I didn't make them look cute. They're just my statistics from G's Compile rating system. She makes these amazing spreadsheets so you can track the books that you've read and different things. Is the author a person of color? Does it have representation for disabilities or LGBTQ+? Or, lots of different things you can track. Audiobook, physical book, all the works. And it creates these lovely stats for you. So I've basically printed out all the stats reports and glued them in here. So I won't pick these up and show you, but I will kind of talk you through my end of the year conclusions as well as some favorite reads. So, with the pages read, it tells you how many you read per month. July was my highest reading month, which is no surprise. It's summertime. I'm out of school. But December was my second highest reading month. That is kind of surprising. I did read a lot in December due to Christmas break, so I guess that explains why. The books read per month, same thing. July and December were my big months last year. In terms of book length, most of the books that I read range between 300 to 400 pages, which makes sense because I read a lot of YA in middle grade and they tend to fall in that amount of page length. I read mostly novels, although I did have 11% of my reads were graphic novels, so I feel like it's a good percentage. I read mostly physical books, 60%, but then 36% were audiobooks, and then 1.5% were mixed media. So for me, mixed media I interpret as when I read it physically and listen to the audiobook at the same time, which is really fun to do. If you've never tried that, I highly recommend it. In terms of genre, my biggest genre was fantasy. Again, no surprises. And my second biggest genre was contemporary. Genres that I did not do well on at all were adventure, mythology, and poetry. I did a little bit in those, but not nearly so much as the other ones. Let's see. Age category, 54% young adult, 15% adult, which is kind of shocking for me because I think I've read more adult books this last year than I have any year. New adult, 5.7%. Middle grade, 23.2%. That's a percentage that I'd like to go up in the next year. And 1% children's books. Publication year, read a lot of new books in 2021, 2022, but also some really, really old books. Like, I read a book published in the 1800s, Jane Austen. May have read it a couple times. Definitely did. Anyway, let's see what else. 61% of my books had LGBT plus rep, which I think is awesome. And the breakdown of that, it's mostly the highest percentage out of the subcategories were sapphic romances. And then second would be gay romance, like male. Disability rep. Sadly, 79% of my books had no disability rep. So that's something that I want to increase. Most of the books that did have disability rep, it was in the main character, and then some with other characters. Most of the disability rep that I did read was mental health, which makes sense for me because I have my own struggles with that issue. But I also read some with like amputees, chronic illness, cancer, PTSD, etc. Which I guess PTSD is mental health too. I probably could have lumped those two together. All right, we're having a little bit of camera issues, but I think I've got it figured out. I think I finally figured this thing out. Okay, so there is a place to track how you got the books. And you could select ARC, library, owned. There were some other things like Scribd and stuff that I don't use. But most of my books I own, which, I mean, shocking. I would like to try to support my local library more. So whether that's through the library app with audiobooks or physically going to the library, which I definitely want to do more because our librarians are lovely. I would like to do that more. The next one was rereads or have you read it for the first time. 89% of my reads were for the first time, which is good because I'm always looking for new books to suggest to my kids and things. That's a big part of why I read mostly young adult and middle grade. Also, it's fantastic. But anyway, that's a good stat for me. Series or standalone, exactly 50% were series books and exactly 50% were standalones. I don't know how that all worked out. And it let me know that I started 48 series this year. Like 48 of my books were the beginning of a series. And I finished 4 series this year. So that's one of the things I want to do better on. Maybe I need to join Steph's final book support group from the channel Steph loves. It's just a place to help you like finish up series. Person of color authors. 26.8% of my authors were people of color. Some of them I counted as no if I wasn't sure. because you can't always tell just by looking at a person, and they don't always list that kind of information about the author thing, so I just don't know. But my highest category within that breakdown would be Asian authors, and then the next highest is Black authors, and then on to Latinx, and then a few other smaller categories. Am I too close to the camera again? It's kind of trippy with this autofocus. I mean, I love it, but a little bit. 77% of the authors I read were women, and 17% were men. 4.6 were either non-binary or multiple authors. Own voices. Now, 25.8% of my reads I marked as yes, own voices. Some things I feel like it doesn't apply. For example, like super high fantasy books. Like, unless it's specifically stated that a character is from a certain group, like LGBT plus or like ethnicity group or whatever, it's hard to tell whether it's own voices or not. So if I'm not sure, I mark no. So that number might not be entirely accurate. My most read author this year was Shannon Messenger. I read the entire Keeper of the Lost City series, so it's 10 books up to now, because we have 9 books plus the 8.5 one that was the extra thing. Total of 159 different authors read. Most of my authors are American, with a few British and Canadian, and then a couple from other places, but their percentages are so small that it doesn't come up on the little pie charts. And when considering whether an author is new to me or someone I've read from before, 51% were new authors and 49% were ones that I've read from before. Okay. I think we need to take a look at favorite reads of the year. I did this little like bracket thing with my favorite book from each month and then narrowed it down. And I ended up with a tie because I could not choose between 2 books. So we have the adult book, Hell and Back by Craig Johnson. It's part of the Walt Longmire mystery series. Some of you might have seen the Netflix TV show that was an adaptation or read some or all of the books. They are phenomenal. Set in Wyoming, my home state. Well, my home state now. I wasn't raised in Wyoming, but you know, I live here. And this one, I can't really explain why I loved it so much because I would spoil way too many things. So you're just gonna have to trust me that it's super emotional, very personal to the character that I have a very strong connection with. And it was just so good. The other one is a middle grade book, A Rover Story by Jesmyn Warga. She is an author who will tug at your feels, and this one is no exception. It is about a Mars rover named Resilience, but he goes by Rez, and he starts to have human feelings, which he's not supposed to have, but yeah, he also wants to be the first Mars rover to ever come back to Earth successfully, and one of the 2 scientists that made him is very, very sick. He doesn't realize this at the time, but we as the reader see it because her daughter is also writing letters to Rez. It's just go read it. Even if you don't love middle grade fiction, just give this one a try, and I promise you, you will not regret it. Then we'll move out to the desk and I will show you a close-up look at my 2023 reading journal. All right, so here we are at the table, and this is my 2023 bullet journal for reading. This is an Archie Olive bullet journal, and you may have seen this in my unboxing of their seasonal box that I got. So I'm going to skip the first page because that has my phone number written in it, and y'all don't need to know that. Okay. This is the title page, and you can see some ink bleeding through because I did a dumb thing. But this is just kind of getting us started. And here is my Goodreads goal. I used a stamp that's like books on shelves because I thought, oh, brilliant idea, stamp, stamp, stamp. Well, I used Stays On ink, which bleeds through paper, and I know that it does, so why did I do that? Don't know. But I'll be coloring in each of these books. My Goodreads goal is 175 books again this year. And this one is a reading challenge that was inspired by school. So each prompt is something that you might encounter in a school, like band, detention, home ec, guidance counselor, and so on. I found this online on Unruly Readers, so you can Google Unruly Readers if you want to know more about this. But this has a flip out, and so all the prompts are here, And then as I finish each one, I will cross it out and then I'll write down what I read on the bingo square. So you can see I've already read 4 books as we're getting into 2023. So I've been able to knock off 4 of these categories. This is an A to Z reading, so boxes A through Z ending up here. And so the title has to start with that. I don't count the words or the as a part. So for example, The Door of No Return by Kwame Alexander went in the D box because door, the door, etc. And this one is Read the Rainbow. This one looks like a kind of a fun one. You just pick some colors, and when you read a book that's the cover is mostly that color, then you can record it. This is our school reading challenge for the spring semester. So these are required reads, and these are bonus reads, and we challenge each kid to go for the bonus reads, and there's a reward that they can earn an experience at the end of the semester if they've read all 5 bonus reads and completed a little 1-page report on it. This is a monthly review that I'm going to be filling out each month with my favorite read of the month and the number of books that I read. Similar thing here, the favorite books of the month are also going to go here on this bracket, and it'll be kind of single elimination to find out my favorite book of the year. This one is a book of the month tracker. So every month when I get my book of the month box, I'm going to write down what book or books I got. And then if I read them, then I can come in and check them off. Sometimes I don't get to my book of the month books for a while. So I just wanted to track how often am I actually reading them. This is a similar thing. This page is for Owl Crate and this is for Fairy Loot. So what books am I getting in those boxes and am I reading those? This is my tracker for YouTube subscriber counts and Instagram followers. I don't really care how many subscribers and followers I have, especially with Instagram. I don't really pay attention to it too much, but once a month I like to just check in and see what's happening. Is it growing? Is it not growing? Etc. And here we have the January monthly setups. So in January, I'm using a lot of like succulent stickers and this kind of peachy pink washi tape. And I have this quote from Annie Dillard. She read books as one would breathe air to fill up and live. We have our January calendar. My monthly TBR, any books that I haul. The stats at the end of the month, just like you saw in my last year's journal, and my favorite read of January. So I like to use washi tape and stickers to decorate these monthly pages. And then for every book I read, I do a chapter tracker and I color it in as I go. So this was for the book Cupcake by Cookie O'Gorman, and I drew a dress. It's just something I decided to draw because it seemed like it fit with the book. And all the numbers here you can see represent chapters, so I color them in when I've read that chapter. This one is for Northwind by Gary Paulson, and you can see this one is for Spineless, which is my current read. There are 2 other books that I have finished in January, but they were audiobooks and I don't do chapter trackers for those. So that is my 2023 journal. Okay, so that's it for this video. Have a wonderful, magical, and bookish day. Happy reading. Adios.